Fidelis Aponiwaisu, Freedom Giant. Yeah, Nigerian.
My name is Binen Samuel. I am a Freedom Giant, and I'm the president of Africa Voice International Uganda chapter.
Okay. So I'm the host of one-on-one show of the African Voice International, Freedom in Africa. So I'm the PRO of Nigerian Anatomy. Welcome, Mr. Freedom Giant, to this show. Our interview will just be brief. Like I said, it won't take much of your time. On a quick one, there are so many issues now in the world, in the global anatomy, threatening the global anatomy generally. But this evening we'll be looking at a particular issue, the Russian and the Ukraine crisis. I call it crisis because it's more like Russia and Ukraine. So in the global anatomy, Mr. Freedom Giant, what is your take right now on the Russia-Ukraine crisis?
Pardon?
Okay, I say there are a lot of tensions now in the global anatomy rising from the Russian-Ukraine war or crisis. So I'm asking, what is your take right now on the Russian-Ukraine crisis?
Thank you so much. In fact, there are very many questions that are supposed to be answered about why Russia has invaded Ukraine for sure. And addressing some of these most pressing questions of the whole war, from how it started and to how it might end, it's really very, very difficult. And the Russian war in Ukraine proven itself to be one of the most consequential political events of our time and one of the most confusing. From the onset, Russia's decision to invade Ukraine was very, very hard to understand. It seems to be very, very odd. Of course, from the beginning, you asked the question, why did really Russia invaded Ukraine? You remember, of course, in a televised interview, the Russian government claims that it was a special military operation in Ukraine. So there was another version of where the president of Russia himself claims, that is actually Vladimir Putin, claims that it was not invasion in Ukraine, but it was a military operation to denazify Ukraine. So I wonder why he has done that, and it's really still very difficult to understand. Another question also might come from that. Who is going to win this war? And of course, you remember at the beginning of the war, Russia thought that it was only going to take something like 3 days or 72 hours, they will be done with the Kiev government. But I think...
But today, the war is exceeding more than their expectation.
Exactly. What they thought, of course, was a very serious resistance which they could really not manage. And I think to a very greater extent, Vladimir Putin is very, very disappointed with his government on the decision that they have really taken. Another question might be, we may also want to know why Russian military is performing very poorly in Ukraine. Of course, I think, I believe they were not well prepared, and they, of course, because they believe that it was just going to be a walkover. And that's why they are getting a tough and very stiff resistance. we may also go ahead and ask what has the war meant for ordinary Ukrainian? I think it is really something really very not good to force you really to leave your home country, to live under fear, to become a refugee in another country where you lack the basic needs. So it's really not good. So there are very many questions that you can ask about that. And of course, to me, it was something really very, very wrong. And I condemn the activity of Russia invasion in Ukraine.
Thank you very much. Like you said earlier, initially the Russians, Putin was thinking that the war would just be a 3 days thing, but today, to his surprise, he has exceeded more than his expectation, and that is something that is of concern today, and even to also the Russians. Now, let's look at recently, the president of Ukraine, he has been in trying to protect the sovereignty of the nation as a president. That is his constitutional right. And what is your stand on his, in his position to defend the sovereignty of his nation? Hello, sir. Hello, Freedom Giant. Binen, can you hear me?
I'm getting you loud and clear.
You can hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay, I'm asking, as a president, is his constitutional right to defend and to protect the sovereignty of his nation? I'm talking about the president of Ukraine. Right now.
I think what President Zelensky is doing is really right to defend the sovereignty of his country, to defend the kinsmen. He is actually defending the identity of Ukraine people from Russia aggression. And of course, the call is making to other world superpower really to come in and help him with the military aid and other humanitarian aid, I think is the best thing. In fact, actually, President Zelensky is one of the heroes of the modern days. People thought that the way Putin was talking, that he would actually blow Ukraine in one day. But of course, the President Zelensky stood the ground, and he is doing very well. And what he's doing, really, I support him. And I call actually the world anatomy, world superpower, at least to come in assistance and provide him with all the necessary aid, whether military or humanitarian, anything that he wants. To some extent, I think the world superpower has also let us slightly down, because if they were to hit to the call that President Zelensky was making to actually to have a no-fly zone over Ukraine soil, all those destruction, the building, the loss of life, the genocide that is being committed, all those sorts of atrocity would have not been there. So actually, I think President Zelensky is one of the best presidents I have ever seen in the modern days.
Oh, you call him the best president you've ever seen in the modern days politics? Because he's protecting the sovereignty of his nation. He's trying to defend, her country and defend the people, which is the right thing to do as a constitutional president.
Yes.
So, that is the right thing to do. It is indeed what he's supposed to do. Now, the World Governing Council today, are they really, and other institutions, are they really doing, playing their part to end this war as soon as possible? The NATO, the United Nations, and the European Union, and other institutions, are they doing everything possible crisis as soon as possible? Because there are a lot of casualties. Even when they invaded Kiev, about 1,800 and something persons died. So what are they really doing? The world institution, are they really helping?
Thank you so much. I come from a background where in my culture, my tribe is called Alura and it's found in Uganda, in Congo, and part of Cameroon. But of course, in our culture, they say fire is put off with the fire. Of course, now when you ask me whether those institutions, the NATO, the UN are doing enough, to me, actually, they are very, very disappointing to me. They are not really doing enough. If they were really doing enough, you wouldn't see those kind of destruction that has really taken place in Ukraine. You wouldn't see all those people who have lost their life in Ukraine. You can imagine, even on the very day when the UN Secretary General has visited Ukraine city of Kiev, the Russia had the audacity really to bomb the city where the UN Secretary General is doing. And of course, you know what the UN has no much mandate. For them, of course, they call for accountability and they are not investigating body, they cannot do enough. I am seeing, I don't know whether ICC is going to take over this case. In fact, Vladimir Putin is actually a war criminal and is supposed to be actually tried in ICC. Of course, there are some countries that I should really, to some extent, they are not trying their best.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I was still continuing, but I think, of course, I need to appreciate what the United States is really doing right now under the government of Joe Biden. They are really doing enough. They are trying their best. They are giving military aid, and I think, and I am also very, very happy with the France. I think towards some 30 minutes when I was coming to this interview, I saw even France has actually pledged to give military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. And of course, there are other countries like the German, the UK, they have opened actually their borders for the refugees from this warring country of UK to go to their country. I think that is something really very, very commendable, and I need to commend them for that. But as for NATO, they are really not doing enough. They are supposed to. If NATO was to come in, those things wouldn't have really escalate to that level.
Okay, don't you think why NATO did not into the war is because Ukraine is not fully recognized in the NATO organization?
Thank you so much. But I think, yes.
Why NATO hasn't, intrude or send forces to Russia or send missiles to Russia? I think it's because Ukraine is not fully recognized in NATO. Don't you also think that?
That is also something really very good. But of course, because it doesn't overwhelm, because Ukraine does not belong to NATO, and then you can allow people just to be killed, to be massacred, to be slaughtered, when you have the power really to intervene and to stop the killing. So I think there somewhere, somehow, maybe the NATO treaty have not read it very well, but I think they need to make amendment in that.
Okay, so what do you have to say about the the statement made by the NATO Secretary General, the person of James Stoltenberg? In a youth summit at Brussels, Belgium, he said we need to be prepared for the long time. There is absolutely the possibility that this war will drag on and last for months and years. He told a youth summit at Brussels So, and he also said again that the military alliance is ready to help Kyiv to transition from using old Soviet era weapons to NATO standard weapons. So, with this statement, don't you think they are trying to instigate more, problem between Ukraine and Russia, because trying to give Ukraine more sophisticated weapon, more advanced weapon to fight Russia instead of making.
When you remember when the incident,
trying to make.
You remember very well when it was in Iraq, Saddam Hussein was also one of the dictator leader like Vladimir Putin, who was claiming that he is untouchable. When they go to him, he will blow people, something of that sort. But of course, when he was attacked, I think it didn't take long for him really to lose it. And to me, by the NATO giving sophisticated weapons to Ukraine to defend themselves, I think it's something really good. It's not that they are fueling the war. In fact, they want the war to end.
So giving them a sophisticated weapon will facilitate the end of the war? Is that what you mean?
Auntie, you well remember that the president of Russia is not willing actually to go on the round table and handle this conflict on a round table. So for him, he believes in the war arsenal. So I think that would be the best way of paying him if really they can really give sophisticated weapon that can really suppress him.
Okay, if you say so. But to me, I think it's like, putting gasoline in a burning bush. It will help the bush to burn the more. I think that is exactly what NATO and the big brothers United States are doing right now. A president Biden, was asking the congressman to raise a bill of $33 billion to assist the Ukrainian in this crisis, in buying weapons and other things too. So this is a kind of, making this war to last longer than expected. I think what they ought to do right now is to find a diplomatic way to bring peace between these two nations, rather than instigating more crisis between, because people are dying in their numbers every day. Buildings are being burned down, people are dying, homes, people are rendering homeless. It's not the right thing to do. I think they should improvise other means to, to end this war as soon as possible.
And that is why, to some extent, really, I blame the United Nations, where also Putin is a member. That's why I'm really saying what they are doing is not enough. In fact, war is not really the best thing in this 21st century. You are not supposed to go to war to begin. Yeah, what Putin has done is totally really wrong. And of course, now when you go back in history, I think Putin is to some extent dissatisfied, because I think, if I can recall very well, I think in 1990, should be around 1991. Yeah, that's when Ukraine went for referendum, and I think 92% of the Ukrainians voted in a national referendum for Ukraine to become a sovereign state, of course, to move away from Russia. And I think that is something that is really paining Putin so much. And by the way, for your information, the target of Putin was actually for regime change in Kiev. And that is something that he has completely failed.
Okay, so you think, Ukraine staying as a sovereign nation out of the old Soviet Union is one of the things that, aggrieved President Putin?
I beg your pardon.
Okay. From what you said, you said around there was a referendum voted for Ukraine to become a sovereign nation, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and as a sovereign nation, they have the right to join any organization they want to join.
That's right.
It's right. But now Putin or Russia is all stopping Ukraine from joining NATO, which is the origin of the war, right?
Yes.
So, to me, I think they did it, but this institution should be in a place of making rather than instigating more problems, sponsoring in and
I think having been an independent nation with its own constitution, I think Ukraine have got the right to join any organization of their choice. Not that they put into the post that Ukraine should be in his Soviet Union, which he rules and control. I think that is really also not proper of him.
Okay, I get you, which is true, which is true. I get you right. Now, in continuous invasion in yesterday, I read online they invaded. Even today, they still invaded. People died. On Thursday, the same thing. Even the media is not giving out the exact number of people, casualties, and dead people. As a result of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, and they've taken over. Some parts of Ukraine, Donbass, and they are approaching down the town now. From the recent news that they are moving, the Russian militaries are moving forward, to see how they can capture Ukraine. So, this invasion has been taking place. What do you think there are what President Putin is doing right now from the onset of this war?
Yes. Of course, you are also well aware, while Putin's decision to continue with the invasion, some of the high-ranking, of course, officials and the politicians in Russia, they are also not happy with what he's doing. I think, to some extent, I believe Putin wants also to enter in a Guinness book. He wants maybe the generation to come in future to be studying about him, like what there is this man, I've forgotten his name. There is I think in World War II there was a very common figure. I'm forgetting his name. I think, yeah. So okay. I think Putin also want to be Adolf Hitler of 21st century.
You think so? but I think what Putin is doing is to to also help his nation. I mean the Russian nation.
In fact,
don't you think what is to whole country, not to allow to have a military base in Ukraine, because Ukraine and Russia is very close. Don't you think what that is?
I understand that, but also there is another rhetoric that I'm thinking. Also, Putin indirectly want confrontation with some of these world superpower like USA Yeah, I think that is something which is targeting, and I think he is not achieving his agenda. So, Mr. Fidelis, I think that is also one of the things that I think Vladimir Putin wants. He wants to try his military might with the USA. And you know, of course, Russia also claimed to be one of the world superpower. I think that those are some of the things that is why he is pushing harder and harder in Ukraine.
Yeah, because no nation, the big brother United States is, is a very big nation. They are the world power, as we all know. They are trying to have power over every nation, but Russia is in the position of opposing them. That's the main reason I think why this, war is still continuing. And instead of them making peace, they are, pushing more problems by investing. I call it investment because they will definitely get back what they are spending in Ukraine. Sponsoring them with weapons of war and some other military aids. But let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. But I think Putin is just trying to protect his nation as a sovereign nation also. Oh.
I think, yeah, I totally agree with you. Of course, Russia is a sovereign nation. That is true. And you remember, even towards the beginning of the war, Russia increased its spending in military actually to acquire weaponaries, I think 10 times more than Ukraine. But what is the result we are getting right now? I think those things, the money that he has invested in buying those arsenals he could have channeled it to do any other things. If he had nothing to do with those money, he could have given the money to charity organization in war-torn countries like we have Syria, which is faced with the war. We have Central Africa. We have Mali. In fact, by the way, even Putin is not only causing confusion, not only in Ukraine. You remember of recent the satellite image of something like a mass grave in Mali, and it is believed even it was still the same one. Russian soldiers who have killed people and buried them in a mass grave, and they wanted to tarnish the name of the France military who are present in Mali. You can see how far he could go really.
Yeah. So, on a quick one, what is your take on the sanctioning of various Russian politicians and businessmen and women, even also President Putin, and the ban on President Biden, Vice President Kamala, and other businessmen and women in the United States from entering Russia, and also.
Thank you so much. I think I'm beginning with the Putin actually. Posing sanction on Biden, on Kamala Harris, on the businessmen and women of USA from entering Russia. I think to me that is actually kick of a dying horse. In fact, where was he before? Before the war, before he started those war in Ukraine, they were nothing like that. After him seeing nuts are being tightened to him, conditions are becoming tougher and tougher, sanctions over sanction, and that's when you wake up that for him he's also posing sanction on is it the president of USA, the businessman, the vice president, and to some extent where he's now forcing people also to buy his gas in the Russian currency. Is it called ruble or something of that sort? I've never heard about it even before. In fact, he is heading towards doom.
And Robo is going below expectation. Recently, when I checked, it was just 5 naira in Nigeria here, 5 naira 82, which is very bad. They are doing everything possible to make sure that they put him down for him to surrender and give up. Hello.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Okay, I said, you were talking about the Russian currency, ruble, right?
Yes.
So I was trying to give you instant how poor the currency has been of recent now. It's just around naira, Nigerian naira, 5 naira equivalent of it. So, and I think this is a way of making Putin to drop the war, to give up and to surrender. Don't you think so? That's why they are making everything possible to destabilize him.
Yes. So, of course, I think the best advice that I can give, of course, I know Putin is not hearing what I'm saying. What he has done is actually totally wrong. And the best thing is for him actually to pull out his troops from Ukraine. And he's supposed to pay for the damages he has caused to both lives and properties in Ukraine, seriously. And if really the international court, criminal court that sits in Hague is really there and it has power, Putin has to be brought to justice.
Yeah, they would definitely sue him for genocide, for so many offenses. I know at the end of the war, once the war ends, he would definitely, face the criminal court. I believe so. I believe so. Well, thank you very much, Freedom Giant, Binen Samuel. I'm so grateful to have you in this one-on-one show. I'm so grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I also want to thank you, and I want to thank African Voice International for giving me this opportunity to be hosted on one-on-one. And I want to thank Lady Zorika, is it Pavisi of the Global Anatomy from Serbia, for also doing the recording. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, both. It was very good listening to you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.